Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Jamie, and in today's video I'm going to be recapping all of the books that I read in February and in March. I have not done one of these videos in a couple of months, so I just wanted to go through all of the books that I read in the past 2 months, give you guys my ratings, my thoughts, if I would recommend the books. And yeah, we're just gonna have a good little time just kind of chatting about books. I do have some stats to share with you regarding my average rating and the number of pages I read each month, so I thought that would be a fun little addition to these videos. But yeah, I'm not wearing eye makeup today, so we're just not gonna talk about that. We're not gonna talk about it. Okay, so I have my cute little Animal Crossing paper here, and I'm obviously gonna go February and then March. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy. In February, I read 3 out of the 10 books on my TBR, but I read 5 books in total, DNF'd 1. I read a total of 2,137 pages, and my average rating for the month was 4.05 stars, which is pretty high. So the very first book that I picked up in February was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is the first in a trilogy, I believe, by Holly Jackson. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. It is a YA kind of suspense thriller, Criminal Minds-esque. You're just trying to solve this murder in this town, along with Pip, who is doing her high school capstone project. And for her high school capstone project, she is trying to basically like say that someone who was convicted for murder actually didn't do it, and trying to prove his innocence and trying to find who did do it. So it was a really fun time. I gave it 4 stars. It was such a quick and easy read. I actually read this book in less than 24 hours. I read it in like literally like a few hours. It was so good. But not 5 stars obviously, because then we kept the ball rolling with that video. With Really Good Actually. This is a kind of lit fic book. You're following this girl, and she just got divorced in her mid-20s, and she's just trying to redefine her identity, and you're kind of just going through her daily life as she is going through friendships and new relationships and grief, and yeah, just kind of slice of life. I did give this 2.75 stars. Wasn't a favorite of mine. Parts of it were very captivating and very witty and had me like giggling, but then other parts I was just like, all right, I can't wait for this to be over. So for that reason, it was 2.75 stars. And yeah, not my favorite of the month by far. Then I hopped right into a fantasy book. So this is Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. So this book, I don't know why, I have the hardest time like getting my thoughts together regarding the plot, so I'm going to just read you the back and we're just gonna call it a day. A stunning new adventure set in the kingdoms of the Remnant, a formidable outlaw family that claims to be the first among nations, a son destined to lead, thrust suddenly into power, 3 fierce young women of the Ratten, the Queen's premier guard, a legendary street thief leading a mission determined to prove herself, a dark secret that is a threat to the entire continent. When outlaw leader meets reformed thief, a cat-and-mouse game of false moves ensues, bringing them intimately together in a battle that may cost them their lives and their hearts. It had a lot of romance. It was kind of like enemies to lovers, but the one downfall of this book for me was that for an enemies to lovers plotline, it felt rather rushed, and it did feel kind of like insta-lovey, which you wouldn't expect from enemies to lovers. It was like they weren't supposed to be together, but they were just drawn together like right from the beginning, and you're getting both of their point of views. So right from the get-go, you know that they're both like into each other, and I didn't really love that about it. I did love kind of like the action and the little like journey that they went on. I am gonna read the second book, Vow of Thieves. I have it on my shelf there. I am gonna, you know, close out the series. I do kind of wish that I read the prequel to this book, which is called Morrigan, which goes into kind of the history of the world and the land and the politics. And that is on Kindle Unlimited, so I might still pick that up in the future one day. But yeah, this was just a 4.5. It was really, really good. I tabbed some parts. There were some really good quotes, but overall, it was a pretty solid read. Then I hopped into The Grace Year, which is a YA dystopian novel where you are following these girls who are 16 years old, and they are basically in their grace year, which when you're 16 and you're a girl in this county, you are banished from the county and you are basically living in the woods and trying to survive and trying to rid yourself of your magic that is dangerous to men. Yep. It was so good. I found this to be a really captivating story, a really heartbreaking story, and a really like moving story. I enjoyed the romance that was in this. You know, there's a very small bit of romance that you get, but when you do get it, it is very good. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. Would definitely recommend. Then we closed out the month and that reading vlog with my first 5-star read of the month and my last 5-star read of the month, which is Throne of Glass. This was my second book in the Throne of Glass series. You can read it in a bunch of different orders. I read this book second, and wow, I love this book so much. I am not going to say anything about it because I went into this completely blind. Like, I didn't even know the plot, like the bare bones of the plot. Like, I had no idea, and I'm so glad that I did that. So I want you to do that as well if you have not read this yet. But this was 5 stars. I could not put it down. I didn't tab this one, but in the future, if I reread it, I think I would tab it because this is just turning out to be such a great series. I am loving it so much. So yeah, 5 stars. Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I definitely recommend that series if you are like me and you're just such a fantasy person and you love fantasy worlds, and especially if you read ACOTAR, try Throne of Glass. It is very different, and at times it is quite intimidating, but it's also just so, so good. Moving right along. Oh, actually, no, not moving right along yet. I did DNF one book in February. I DNF'd Mile High by Liz Tomford. I started reading that on my Kindle and I couldn't do it. Really didn't like the male main character. Just the obnoxious, like cocky male main character in like contemporary romance is just never my favorite. And I was in a place where I was just like, I can't read this because it's gonna put me into a slump. So I did DNF that. Maybe I'll revisit it in the future sometime, but probably not. Moving into March, I read 2 out of 10 of the books on my TBR, so going down a book. I did read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I read 6 books total, so that's not bad, but only 2 of them were on my TBR. I read 2,782 pages, which is like 600 something pages more than February, so that's awesome. And then my average rating was higher. It was 4.2 stars, so another really good reading month. So starting off the month, and I think I started this the end of February, but I finished it in March. This is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. So after I finished Throne of Glass, I hopped right into Crown of Midnight because I just couldn't put it down. I couldn't put the book down, the series down. This book was so fantastic. The ending had me 5 stars. 5 stars. I think about this book often. I think so far this might be my favorite book in the series, and I just love it so much. So again, not gonna say anything because it is the 3rd book in the series, but 5 stars. Cannot recommend that series enough. Then I hopped into a very anticipated read for me, and a lot of you really wanted me to read this book, and so I finally read Binding 13. This book doesn't look like it's so many pages, but it is 600 something pages. It's like just about 600 pages. Long book. I rated this 3.5 stars on Goodreads. I really did like this book. The issues that I had with it were repetition, like the description of how small Shannon was and how big Johnny was and how like Shannon just literally couldn't do anything for herself and like was so dependent. Like I just felt like I was reading that on every single page of this 600-page book, and that just really like made me kind of dread picking this up. With that being said, I do think that this book talks about a lot of really important topics, but also I don't know, sometimes I can read YA and it's fine. Like I read, what is it? When I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, they are in high school, but the plot was so like interesting to me, and you had this little like mystery aspect that like I didn't mind that they were in high school. This book, they're also in high school, and that just really, it read very immature, it read very young. I just don't think that I can do contemporary high school romance. I just can't do it because I am in my 30s and it just feels like I am doing something wrong. Like, I can't relate to them at all. So in that regard, I really didn't love that. But yeah, I loved parts of this book, but other parts I just really found myself dragging my feet, wanting it to be over with. So I did give it 3.5 stars, and yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be continuing the series. Maybe. Like, I read a couple of pages on my Kindle for Keeping 13 because it is on KU, and I was just like, I don't really care, so like, why am I reading, kind of thing. And I know that the next like duet of books, the Saving 6 and Keeping 6, are Shannon's brother and his girlfriend, and I really just don't care to read about their story, so I'm probably not going to finish that series. Yeah, that's just my opinion. But after that, I picked up Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This was an ARC, so thank you to NetGalley for providing me with this ARC to read ahead of the publishing date. I really enjoyed this book. It was my first ever Abby Jimenez book, and it was just such a cute, fun read. You're following two main characters, a guy and a girl, and they both have this thing where when they break up with someone, their ex then goes on to find their soulmate, and they feel like they're both cursed. So they kind of meet and they realize that they both have this thing going, and they're like, hey, why don't we date each other, and then we break up, it'll cancel out the curse and we can find our soulmates. So they try to do this little like experiment, and it just kind of goes from there. Of course, they're gonna fall for each other, and it was just a really, really cute romance. There was a lot of good mental health representation in this book, and there were also some tougher topics like grief and abandonment and family issues, and it was just a really good read. I rated it 3.5 stars, which is not bad. Like, 3.5 to me, it means that I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. Like, it's not an all-time favorite, but I really did enjoy my time reading it, and I'm excited to read more by Abby. So yeah, 3.5 stars. Then I went to the library and I got 2 books. One was The Jasad Heir by Farah Hashem, and this was kind of like an Egyptian like fantasy. I really can't even describe it for you. I DNF'd it. I will start with that. I DNF'd it at 45%, which was about 250 pages, so I am counting it towards my Goodreads goal because 250 pages is a lot of pages. That was like a week of reading for me. I just really didn't love the story. I didn't love the writing style. It was very all over the place, very choppy. I was very lost. I feel like it was just, they were throwing so many different names and places at you, and it was just too much. It was just too much. So I, yeah, didn't read it, DNF'd it, decided that this is the year of not hate reading books for me. So love that for me. But then the second book that I picked up at the library was my favorite of the month. It was Serpent on the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I loved this book so much. I can't believe it took me this long to read it because this is such a hyped up book all over the book talk tube, Instagram space, social media. Anywhere that you talk about fantasy books, you always talk about Serpent on the Wings of Night, and for good reason. It was so good. You're following the main character, whose name is Araya? Araya is a human girl living in a vampire world, and she basically was rescued by a vampire king when she was a baby, and he raises her as his daughter. And she is training to enter into these trials where if you win these trials, you get granted one wish by the goddess of Nyaxia, which is like the goddess of the world. And she enters this competition, and along the way she meets love interest, and it was just so good. It's very like heavy on the romance. Like, it's definitely a traditional like fantasy romance. Like, yes, there is the trials, which I love trials in books, I really do, but it was such a good balance between the trials and the fantasy romance. And then like the politics of the world were very easy to understand. I never felt lost. I wanted to just keep reading the book. It was so good. I love Carissa's writing style. It was so easy to digest, and it just felt like the information was flowing. Like, whereas the Jasad Heir, I feel like it was all like dumped. The Serpent on the Wings of Night, it just flows, and you kind of like learn about the world as you're going through like the different trials, and you're just like learning more like by like being in Araya's head, and it was just so good. Can't recommend it enough. 5 stars, needless to say. And I am so excited to continue the series. I am planning on reading the novella next, and then I will finish it with the second book, I think. Is there another novella? Let me know. But yeah, and then I ended the month with another book in the Fill in the Glass series. So this is Heir of Fire by Sarah J Maas. I did fully annotate this, and holy heck, I don't think I will do that again. I love annotating, but when I annotate like this, it takes me so freaking long to get through a book. Like I'm like doing like plot points and like new characters and just like I have so many different tabs for different things. I prefer to just like tab my favorite parts and like quotes and like anything that like I think is gonna be really important, but like this I was very like, okay, like I think this is important, so I'll whatever. So I really enjoyed this book. It was not my favorite in the series, which I feel like is an unpopular opinion because a lot of people say that this is when the series gets really good. I think the series got really good in Crown of Midnight, but Heir of Fire was very good. A lot of character development. I love the different plot points that we are exploring. I just felt like this one, it was a little bit too many like points of view. Like I do enjoy multiple points of view, but when it's like going back and forth, especially when it's in third person and you just really have to like consciously think like, okay, wait, who am I following now? Because, you know, it's not saying like it's saying like, you know, the person, whatever, you get it. You understand the difference between first and third person. But I did really enjoy it. 4 stars. Not my favorite in the series, but still a really strong book and a really good way to close out the month. But those are all of the books that I read in the months of February and March. They were both pretty good reading months for me, honestly. And I am just really excited for April. I already posted my TBR video, so you can go watch that. It was my last video if you missed it. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Definitely give this video a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe if you are not already. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!